The sound of a sharp slap echoed through the crowded cafe, freezing every conversation in an instant. Coffee cups stopped halfway to lips. Chairs scraped against the floor. Dozens of stunned faces turned toward a corner table where a well-dressed CEO stood trembling with anger while a single father held his cheek in silence. For a brief moment, it looked like a powerful woman had just humiliated a struggling man in public, and nobody knew that within minutes, the truth would change every life in that room forever. Before we continue, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Love and Destiny if you believe kindness deserves a second chance and that every person has a story worth hearing. It was a bright spring morning. Sunlight streamed through the large windows of Harborview Café, painting warm patterns across the wooden floor. Rowan Mercer sat quietly near the window with his 7-year-old daughter, Ava. He wore a faded blue shirt, worn jeans, and carried the tired expression of someone who had fought too many battles without ever complaining. Since losing his wife 3 years earlier to a sudden illness, every day had become a balancing act between work, parenting, and survival. That morning was supposed to be special. Ava had just won a school art competition, and Rowan had promised her pancakes before heading to work. Money was tight, but he never broke promises to his daughter. Across the cafe, a black luxury SUV pulled up outside. The vehicle belonged to Celeste Whitmore, the powerful CEO of a billion-dollar technology company. At 38, Celeste was known for her intelligence, ambition, and ruthless standards. Employees respected her, competitors feared her, and the media admired her success. She entered the cafe surrounded by attention, accompanied by her longtime bodyguard, Gideon Hayes. The cafe owner rushed to greet her. Customers whispered her name. Celeste barely noticed. Her mind was consumed by a disastrous business deal that had collapsed earlier that morning, costing her company millions. As she walked toward the counter, a young waiter accidentally stumbled while carrying a tray. A cup of coffee flew through the air and splashed onto Celeste's expensive white jacket. The room went silent. The waiter immediately apologized, shaking with fear. Before anyone could react, Celeste spun around angrily. At that exact moment, Rowan stepped forward, instinctively trying to help the frightened employee. Unfortunately, from Celeste's perspective, it looked as if Rowan had been involved. Her frustration exploded. Without thinking, she struck him across the face. The entire cafe gasped. Rowan staggered slightly but remained calm. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't react with anger. Instead, he simply looked toward Ava, who sat frozen in shock. The little girl's eyes filled with tears. The sight broke every heart in the room. Then something unexpected happened. Gideon, the bodyguard standing beside Celeste, suddenly stared at Rowan's face. More specifically, he stared at a scar that ran from Rowan's temple down toward his jawline. The color drained from Gideon's face. His breathing became uneven. For several seconds, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. Then he stepped forward. The room watched in confusion. Gideon's eyes filled with emotion as he studied the scar more carefully. Memories flooded back. 8 years earlier, before working for Celeste, Gideon had served overseas in a dangerous humanitarian rescue mission. During one violent incident, their convoy had come under attack. Chaos erupted. Vehicles overturned. Smoke filled the air. Gideon had been trapped beneath twisted metal, bleeding heavily and losing consciousness. Everyone believed he was going to die. Everyone except one stranger. A volunteer medic had risked his own life, running back into danger while everyone else fled. That medic had pulled Gideon free, carried him to safety, and saved his life. The medic had suffered a severe head injury during the rescue, leaving behind a permanent scar. The scar Gideon was staring at right now. It belonged to Rowan. The same man who had just been slapped in front of his daughter. Gideon's voice trembled as recognition settled over him. The cafe remained silent. Celeste noticed her bodyguard's reaction and finally sensed something was terribly wrong. As Gideon explained what he remembered, the atmosphere changed completely. For the first time, Celeste looked beyond Rowan's simple clothes and exhausted appearance. She saw the quiet dignity in his posture. She saw Ava clutching her father's arm. She saw the pain hidden behind years of sacrifice. And she realized she had judged him without knowing anything about him. The realization hit harder than any financial loss she had ever experienced. Celeste slowly turned toward Rowan. Her confidence disappeared. Her authority vanished. What remained was genuine regret. Rowan listened quietly as the misunderstanding became clear. Yet even then, he showed no bitterness. Years of hardship had taught him that anger rarely solved anything. Life had already taken enough from him. Holding on to resentment would only take more. Over the next hour, something remarkable happened. Instead of leaving, Celeste sat down with Rowan and Ava. For the first time in years, she listened to someone else's story without checking her phone, reviewing reports, or thinking about business. She learned about Rowan's late wife. She learned about the endless hospital bills. She learned about the second job he worked every evening. She learned how Ava often pretended not to be hungry so her father could eat. Every detail chipped away at the walls Celeste had built around herself. For years, she had measured people by performance, status, and success. Now she was face to face with a man whose greatest achievement would never appear on a resume. He had simply chosen kindness, again and again, even when life had been cruel to him. In the weeks that followed, Celeste could not stop thinking about that day. Eventually, she reached out. Not with money. Not with publicity. But with opportunity. She discovered that Rowan had once studied logistics and operations before abandoning his career to care for his family. Impressed by his resilience and leadership, she offered him a position within her company. At first, Rowan hesitated. But after careful thought, he accepted. Months passed. His hard work quickly became impossible to ignore. Employees admired his humility. Managers respected his honesty. Executives valued his practical wisdom. Meanwhile, Ava flourished. For the first time in years, financial stress no longer dominated every decision. Their future finally looked bright. Yet the greatest transformation occurred in Celeste herself. The incident in the cafe became a turning point. She began spending more time understanding employees rather than simply managing them. Company policies changed. Support programs expanded. Thousands of workers benefited from a leader who had finally learned the value of empathy. One ordinary afternoon, nearly a year later, Rowan and Ava returned to Harborview Café. The same sunlight streamed through the windows. The same tables stood in place. But everything felt different. As Ava proudly showed her latest artwork, Rowan smiled. Not because life had become perfect, but because hope had returned. And sometimes, hope is enough to change everything. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, share, and comment below. Your support helps meaningful stories reach more people who may need a little hope today. Special request: comment "Kindness always returns" if you believe even the smallest act of compassion can come back when we need it most. As Rowan watched his daughter laugh beneath the afternoon sunlight, he remembered a lesson life had taught him many times: people may judge you by what they see in a single moment, but your true character is revealed by what you choose to do when nobody is watching. The scar on his face had once reminded him of pain and sacrifice. Now it reminded him that kindness leaves marks, too, marks that never fade, and sometimes, years later, can change a destiny forever.